take projection.
It's Friday morning, and you know what that means. It's time for another episode of the Alabama Slam podcast. I'm your host, Corey Hanna.
What's going on, guys? It's Patrick Akers.
And Slam Pack episode coming up. We got a lot of wrestling to discuss because we had an early episode last week before Thanksgiving, so we missed Dynamite that night. So we'll cover Dynamite from last week and this week, but first we're going to get into Survivor Series / War Games. From Thanksgiving weekend. Honestly, from my side of it, I thought that it was going to be a decent show, maybe a little underwhelming, but it was highly entertaining.
I thought it was excellent. I think we had mentioned about me being kind of excited for it and all the possibilities it would present as we kind of geared up heading into this road to WrestleMania. And I thought the two War Games matches were just absolutely phenomenal.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the Rousey match was kind of garbage.
Yeah, it was absolute garbage.
Finn Balor versus AJ Styles was cool.
It was fine. I think it was more.
It was the best of the three non-War Game matches for me.
Yeah, it was more bland and maybe more vanilla than I think you and I would have liked.
Yeah.
But it got the job done. Those guys were fine.
Yeah.
And the Austin Theory Rehabilitation Project, the train keeps on rolling down the tracks.
Yeah.
Such a creative finish to get the belt on him and have everybody protected. And those moments like that are stuff I always pop for. And he has Austin Theory.
Yeah, not the way I figured that match would go.
No, they just gave the belt to Seth, and I think everybody kind of predicted it would just kind of stay on him. Now you have Austin Theory with the United States Championship. Completely changed up his look on Monday Night Raw this past week. He looks more grown up, more vicious in his both in like his delivery of his promos and his wrestling style. You would have to think, and I don't even know what the plan for him at WrestleMania is. I would be making a call to John Cena and see if he wants to come in and face Austin Theory for the United States Championship and give Theory, because he's already drawn so many comparisons to John Cena from the fan base. And so to be able to, if you were to put those two in a match against each other, what a win and a feather in the cap that would be for Austin Theory if he were to beat John Cena in Las Vegas. I'm sure those calls have gone out.
Yeah.
You'd have to think. And then the women's War Games match.
Fantastic.
Great stuff.
Fucking killer. I expected absolutely nothing out of that match, if I'm going to be completely honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just had zero interest in it. I was excited that Becky Lynch was back. Super excited about that. I'm a Becky stan.
Yeah.
So, I was pumped to see that. But there were a lot of great spots in there. Everybody
kind of got their shine. Rhea Ripley doing the chin-ups inside the cage. She's only 26. I'm telling you right now, she's got the potential to be the greatest women's wrestler of all time. I feel that personally, and I know she's got some tough competition for some people that are on the roster now. Bianca has that type of potential. There's something about Rhea Ripley that we've kind of never seen before. And, obviously, it is the physical assets, pun intended, that she has as well. That makes a big part of it, too. But her physicality, her build, it's something we've kind of haven't seen really since Chyna. But Chyna was not a good wrestler. Rhea Ripley is a very good wrestler. And so you can see the matchups down the line for that. Asuka and Io Sky, watching those two go at it's awesome. Bianca, Bayley, Becky, all those women are awesome. It looks like now they might do Alexa Bliss versus Bianca here for a little cup of coffee before they go to WrestleMania. Alexa was kind of not super happy, not really putting over the big win. So you got to figure that's what it's going to be, because I would guess they probably do Becky Bianca 3 at WrestleMania. You would think, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, now's the time where you kind of start having to think about who those opponents are going to be.
Yeah.
And then the men's War Games match, just
Killer.
absolutely phenomenal in every sense of the word. And they get what WWE does so well. Obviously, they're hamstrung by being a PG product, right? So, like, if you put a War Games match in AEW, we see what it is, right? It's blood and guts. There's literal blood. There's guys fighting on top of the cage. There's all kinds of stuff.
Santana gets hurt. You ain't seen him in 6 months.
Yeah. But in WWE, it is the smallest little moment where that entire War Games match was built to lead up to a hug between two men. And that was one of the most satisfying moments, really, in modern-day wrestling for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of when you do the storytelling well.
So one thing that you mentioned yesterday, let's touch on this. There was a moment when the cage opened up, right? And how they paced everything with Roman. And you were talking about when the cage opened up and he grabbed Jay, right? No, Jimmy.
So Jay started off, and, Jimmy was going to make the save. And the door opens up, and Roman just grabs him.
Sitting down. Never got
Sitting
up.
down. Oh, just because he's a boss. Like, everything about him is fantastic. He grabbed the moment when he grabs Jimmy and looks to Sammy and points to him to go into the ring. And the fans are just buying this hook, line, and sinker. And it is such a testament to all of those guys in the bloodline, how well they're doing and how they have their characters dialed in so well. Everybody knows what part they have to play, and they're playing it to perfection.
Well, and I'm not trying to steal all your lines either, but this was a thing that you said to me yesterday, was that, like, the facial expressions and just charisma that Roman has, like, he says more without saying more words. Like, you don't have to expect a fiery promo from him because he can look at you a certain way for 5 seconds.
Yeah. That is something where, and if listeners know a top superstar who's been better than this, please tweet us and let us know. I don't know if there's ever been a guy in wrestling that is so well at facial expressions in the way that Roman is. Now, somebody might say, "Oh, well, The Rock with the eyebrow raise." Yeah, but that's fun and that's campy.
Yeah,
right?
That's in a camp, like, those are things you had to get super theatrical with that back in the day because you had to play to a big room.
Right.
Well, now the camera can get right up in your face, and you don't have to do. You can do the Roman Reigns. Like, I might squinch my eye just a hair to kind of like let you know that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah,
and that you're in some deep shit.
Right, and no other guys had, like, Stone Cold. His persona wasn't built around that. Stone Cold was very brash and outspoken like that. John Cena, same way. I mean, Ric Flair, outspoken. Roman Reigns, when you're going to think back at his championship reign, it's going to be him just staring menacingly into nothing and you being like, just feeling all of it. There's a presence about this man.
Just sitting in a chair waiting.
And even that, like, the smallest thing of somebody thinking like, hey, Roman doesn't need to stand in this case. He would never stand. He needs a chair. And for him to just sit there, and the way they played it up to perfection, he's the last guy to come in, right? Because the babyfaces have the advantage, which is why I'm guessing they gave the babyfaces the advantage in the first place. Because most of the time in any War Games match, the heels always have the advantage because it's that dip in that height, right? The bad guys beat down the babyface, another babyface comes in to make the advantage, and you play that up, and that's how you pace the match. But they wanted that moment where everyone's in the ring but Roman Reigns, the clock goes off, the referee slowly opens the door, and Roman Reigns stands up like the fucking final boss in a video game and walks right down to the ring. And they have that moment where all the heels are on one side, all the babyfaces are on the other, and the heels never moved. That's an important thing because this match isn't about the babyfaces, right? No one really gives a shit about Drew McIntyre and the Brawling Brutes. That's not what this match was about. This match was about the Bloodline, and specifically Sami Zayn and Jey Uso, leading up to that moment where Sammy hits the hula kick on Kevin. Kevin, in just a beautiful moment of storytelling, falls into his arms like they've done so many times. Sammy lays him down, and there you go, Jey. Jey gets the pin, 1, 2, 3, leading up to their hug, and the whole crowd goes crazy.
Hug and a handshake.
Now, how you watch that match at Survivor Series and still come away thinking it should not be Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania for the title. I don't. At this point, I don't know what's going to convince you. I listen to these podcasts and I read all these people who The podcast has huge wrestling podcasts, huge wrestling personalities who still say that, like, oh, it's Sammy's just, they would never do Sammy and Roman at WrestleMania. Why would they do that? I don't know, man. Are you listening to the crowd reactions? Are you seeing the way that these people are responding to Sami Zayn? Like, if you're not convinced at this point, what's it going to take? Because I'm going to tell you right now, if anybody else faces Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, you're going to have a Bautista 2.0 where the fans are just going to say, nope, fuck that, not going with it. We're going to boo you out of the building. This is the guy we want. Even if they do what's been rumored, where they might have Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens team up to go up against the Usos at WrestleMania. First of all, what you literally just paid off Jey Uso accepting Sami Zayn into the family. And you're going to tell me in 2 months you're going to break that up again in that kind of way? Because we've talked about what it should be. It should be, right, coming the full circle moment where Sami, we've fantasy booked Sami wins the Rumble, and Roman then turns on him, but Jey Uso helps Sami get the upper hand against Roman Reigns because all of this started with Roman and Jey Uso. And so to bring that back around in a full circle moment would be beautiful. But, like, this idea that Cody Rhodes should just come back and be the guy to topple Roman, like these past 6 months of wrestling hasn't happened, like I said, it's baffling to me. I do not understand why people think that.
Yeah, we had a Twitter poll this week where it said, coming off Survivor Series, who should defeat Roman Reigns for the title? And then in parentheses, we'll discuss this on the podcast this week. 80% said Sami Zayn. 20% said Cody Rhodes. Full disclosure, there were only 5 votes.
But so still, like,
one person said Cody Rhodes. And I don't know who that was because they did not reply.
I would like to hear from the person that did vote Cody Rhodes just to say why it is.
Yeah.
Because, look, was it probably going to be Roman and Cody at WrestleMania before the injuries and all this stuff? It might have been. Yeah. I mean, you would have to go back and think about, did Hunter and the creative team think that they had this much of a hit on them when they put Sami Zayn in the bloodline? I don't know if you can ever predict these things that happen. This seems like a very natural, organic kind of thing, like the Daniel Bryan 10 years ago that have just kind of risen up out of nowhere.
Well, and that's what Chase Gilmer replied and said, at this point, if it's not Sammy, they're missing out on having the biggest babyface champion since Daniel Bryan. I feel like if it's anyone else, the fans will sour on them. You don't want the fans against a guy like Cody Rhodes, who can also be a huge babyface.
Yeah, I think if Cody comes back, where's the Rumble? It's in San Antonio. That San Antonio crowd, if Cody Rhodes wins it and Sami Zayn's in the Rumble, they're going to boo Cody out of the building. That's just my fear that I have. And if I was in that room, I would be pounding the drum for, listen to these reactions. Look at these people. It's everywhere we go. It's the Usi shirts. It's the Sami Uso. It is right here. We are on a fast break.
We said last week or 2 weeks ago, don't fuck this up, Hunter.
And that's all you have to do, right? You just have to don't fuck this up. If you do not fuck this up, you will have a conclusion of Sami Zayn standing victorious at the at WrestleMania, having the bloodline dissolve. And it will be such a satisfying moment and such a great end to this storyline that has been damn near pitch perfect for years now, to the point to where in a decade, in 15 years, you can have all these guys sitting at a table on a Peacock special in the WWE Network talking about how great this time was and how such a special time in wrestling it's going to be. And this is a big part for Roman Reigns' legacy too, because if this thing ends with a fart, it ain't gonna, it won't look good on him.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is here's what I want. If you put it on Sammy and everybody's like, hell yeah, like we did with Kofi a few years ago, don't turn around in 2 months and squash him with fucking Brock Lesnar on national TV. I mean, I get that they were trying to have a big splash and they wanted the belt on somebody like Lesnar because that was the very first night they premiered on Fox.
Right.
Or Friday night, right?
Yeah.
So please don't do that to us. Please don't fucking squash Sammy in 7 seconds. And then the other thing that I wanted to say before we wrap up in a second, we had a reply from Blue Gillen as well. He said the Bloodline story has been running for so long now that if The Rock comes in with 3-week build and beats Roman, it's going to be a letdown. Let Rock and Roman fight over who sits at the head of the table after Sammy takes the title. Rock could say that, that guy wouldn't have beat me.
Well, and, like what has been theorized out there in the dirt sheet is that, Roman is probably going to wrestle both nights of WrestleMania. And so I think if you're going to have the Rock and Roman, if The Rock is willing to do it in Los Angeles, you have to do it. You got to do it. But you put them on night one on a Saturday night. Roman goes over The Rock. And then the next night...
Yeah, because what good does it do for The Rock to beat Roman?
Nothing. And everybody knows with The Rock's schedule, he's not going to come in and defend that title, right? But now, if you have a Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns night 2, now you can play up commentary. Oh, The Rock gave Roman Reigns a war just the night before. Here's Roman 24 hours later. Can he defend it up against his underdog, Sami Zayn? Maybe it gives Sami Zayn a puncher's chance here, right? Because we've got a fatigued Roman coming off one of the biggest matches of his career. And then you can do the things with Jey Uso, or you can have anybody else could get involved, whatever. Now you protect Roman a little bit. He gets beat. He can go off because he's not going to be working like this next year. I mean, he's about to the point in his career where he's going to be a part-time special attraction. I mean, he already is kind of like that. He wasn't even on Monday Night Raw this week. He misses SmackDowns every now and then. And then you give the belt to Sammy. And now look at all the things you can do. You can do a Kevin Owens again. You can do Solo Sikoa. Maybe he stays a heel. He's pissed off that the Bloodline's disillusioned. Braun Strowman. There are so many natural stories you can do there. And I think it's about time to end this thing, right? Because you don't want the Bloodline story to go on too long, right? You want to end it right when you still have just a little bit more juice left in it before it gets completely dry. So I think WrestleMania is the place to do it. It would be damn near 2.5, 3 years since this thing started. So, we have to keep putting it out there. Sammy versus Roman. Sammy versus Roman. That is the match to make. If they do it in February, like it's rumored, at Elimination Chamber in Quebec, okay, but that doesn't mean he's not going to win. You can't then do that and then turn around and expect us to be satisfied with him and Kevin Owens going up against the Usos for tag team titles. It will not work as well.
I think what we should do is we should try to get the hashtag "Don't Ruin This Hunter" trending. So maybe we'll tweet that out. If y'all are listening, you could retweet it. And maybe they won't fuck this up. They're on the fast break. They're at the 50, running in for the touchdown with nobody in front of them. The ball has been set on the tee. Whatever kind of cliched sports metaphor you want to use, this is where they're at. If they stumble and fall now, they will have so much egg on the face. It will be so disappointing. For all the praise that he's getting about the work that he's done trying to turn around some of the things that Vince had fucked up the last several years, you're right. That could be some major egg on the face.
And don't tell me, if this actually is a different company and it's a different regime, you got to be different. So all these people that are like, oh, I don't foresee WWE ever doing Sami Zayn versus Roman. Okay, cool. So it's just still the same company with just a different coat of paint on it and different people in charge? Or is it actually different where they're going to listen to these fans? Because, again, what are people chanting? They're chanting, that's Usi. They're chanting Sammy Uso. This is the guy. How much more evidence do we need to see before we pull the trigger?
It could be cool if tomorrow night, or if you're listening to this tonight, if you listen on release day, it'd be cool if Jay comes out with a shirt to give to Sammy that says Sammy Uso.
Yeah. It could be a cool little moment. And I just think a Jay and Sammy team up to help topple Roman is the way to go.
Yeah. It's not Jay's call to make, but it'd be a nice gesture.
Yeah.
In the storyline.
And then lastly, and we'll wrap this up, Paul Heyman, if there was ever any doubt he wasn't the greatest wrestling manager of all time, his ability, much like Roman, and Roman probably learned a lot from him, to be at ringside, to constantly stay engaged in the match without making the spotlight totally on him and doing so much with just a facial expression. The way they shot those Survivor Series backstage little segments with Hangman just in the corner smiling. It's perfect, right? It's so simple, but when you get the right people in those spots, it's so damn effective. And so shout out to him.
Yeah.
Now he's now managed 3 world champions. Has there ever been another manager that's probably done that? I mean, I don't know. I can't think of any. You think about greatest managers of all time, I don't think Bobby Heenan ever managed 3 separate world champions. So
Yeah, I have no clue.
yeah,
It's a good question. If y'all know the answer to that.
I think it's Heyman. I think Heyman's the only one. So shout out to him too.
So, are you good with that for WWE? Do you want to jump into AEW?
Yeah. One last thing for Monday Night Raw. Dexter Lumis got his WWE contract. I think this is a case in point of maybe going too long on a story and going way past the expiration date. Because Dexter Lumis got his contract and his win over The Miz, and nobody in that arena actually gave a damn. Like, nobody popped.
Yeah.
I don't know. It lost kind of a little bit of its magic along the way.
Yeah.
I mean, now I don't know. Like, now everybody just goes back to being normal, right?
Yeah.
Now what does Dexter Lumis do? Now what does The Miz do? So
Before we jump to AEW, let's talk about the Bray Wyatt stuff too a little bit. So they're teasing a little bit of that. Something's happening backstage, right, with LA Knight, with all the shit getting piled on top of him. The first week, you saw the door open, like when LA Knight's trying to get out, and she's like, "Are you in a hurry to go somewhere?" And he's like, "Do you stay at your job when you're done?"
Yeah.
Well, he opens the door; it's completely black back there, and then boop, there's the flash of the mask or whatever.
yeah,
And then, like, obviously they come back from commercial break, and he's under a pile of chairs and fucking garbage cans and shit. And then basically the same thing happened the following week.
yeah,
So he's teased the beast, right? And then he slapped Bray Wyatt in the face, and Bray was standing there, like, trying to shake it off or whatever. But,
yeah.
So something's happening backstage. We are to assume that it's Bray Wyatt, even though, he did mention the Fiend Friday night
Right.
for the first time. So I don't know. I think we had kind of talked about how they're kind of dragging this out, and that there needed to be some physicality. So there's been the hints of the physicality
A little bit. They've lost me.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it won't turn around and be good, but they were riding so high coming off that debut
Yeah.
at Extreme Rules.
And that great first promo back
The great first promo back. But that was
5 weeks ago.
longer than that, right? Was it before Clash of the Castle? See, the fact that we're even having this conversation trying to go back, that's the problem.
It's been a minute.
That's the problem right there.
Yeah.
Like we said, this is not Broadway, a one-man show. This is wrestling. People have to get physical involved inside the ring, bell-to-bell action.
Yeah,
Not
because
just backstage stuff.
Crown Jewel.
Crown
is
Jewel
when he
was
came back.
between that. So
Right.
you had all this stuff that's happened in between there, which is just okay. Like it's kind of the same old ride, except it's got a little bit. The White Rabbit stuff is cool. I don't know why they're still doing the little hidden stuff on the thing, because he's back now. So it makes no sense. Because I thought the whole point of the White Rabbit stuff was that, like, oh, this is shit that's not making it into the, like, in the television show, the kayfabe of it, the creators of it don't know this stuff is slipping in it, but it's being hacked and hijacked. Well, now he's on the damn show, so now it doesn't make sense for these little stuff to be popping up, these
Right.
numbers. Like, it's not, there are other, you have to know how your medium, whatever it is, be it movies, television, books, how those things excel in telling the types of stories that they can tell. And in wrestling, at the very apex of it, it is about you wanting to see 2 men or 2 women or 4 men, 4 women, whatever, settle their differences inside the ring in a professional wrestling match.
Yeah.
Everything else is kind of, it should all just be ancillary leading up to that moment. So I don't really, like, the first promo was cool. Literally the second promo, somebody should have interrupted him. But now it's just now been LA Knight, and we've been months. We're months into this thing now.
So nobody besides LA Knight wants to fight this man.
Right. Which is, I mean, it's not a good look for LA Knight, I don't guess, right? Because he's going to get squashed in this thing.
Yeah.
And like happens so many times with The Fiend, once you have a program with The Fiend, where do you go from there? It kind of hamstrung your career for a couple months because you got nowhere really to go. So I don't know if he's going to be a part of a faction. We need to start seeing some of these factions. We need to start paying some of this stuff off. Uncle Howdy, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It can't just keep being spooky stuff over and over again.
Shit happening backstage for a third week in a row.
Right.
Attacks or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, look, we got a lot of AEW content to cover. 2 weeks worth of shows. Like I said, because we released last Wednesday, so the show went live that night. Started off with William Regal in the ring, and then Moxley came out, and they kind of had promos or whatever on each other. As you've mentioned this off air, how do you come back after a pay-per-view where you get a new champion and the champion ain't on the TV show?
This was such a misstep 2 weeks ago. And you go back and look at the television ratings, it reflects that. You came off a crowning moment. MJF, this guy that everyone has been talking about being the next big thing in wrestling, right? Finally wins the title on pay-per-view. Holy shit, we can't see what he's Regal stabbed Moxley in the back, gave MJF the knucks. What's their alliance? Oh my God, can't wait to tune in Wednesday. MJF has the promo backstage with the media. You got to tune in every Wednesday, yada, yada, yada. Wednesday rolls around, the motherfucker ain't on the show. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
That's a bit of a misstep.
That is a huge misstep. I don't care where he was at on a damn movie set. If you're Tony Khan and manager, this dude has to be back for Wednesday. Everyone's going to be watching.
Yeah, all you got to do is show up an hour before the show, cut a promo, and then get on a plane.
Be in the ring. Have a promo. Go. Then we could have finally got a moment where we could have William Regal and MJF on screen at least for a week before we did what we did Wednesday night and had him turn around and stab him in the back, which we'll get to, which made no damn sense whatsoever at all. Like, I think I said last week I was going to withhold judgment to see how this thing played out. Now I'm ready to cast judgment. It ain't going to work. This MJF as a heel will not work.
Yeah, and we'll get into more of that.
But yeah,
covering last night's show.
MJF, Moxley, and I love Moxley's part. I love the Danielson part. In retrospect, especially going back 2 weeks, we didn't know what was going to happen. Oh, this is a cool little wrinkle. Danielson's coming out protecting his guy. We know how he feels about Regal. Obviously, both men respect Regal and don't want to do, based off the injury history that he had with his neck. And Moxley just saying, get the hell out. If you ever come back, I'm putting you down. In so many words. And then Regal leaves and, especially 2 weeks ago, we didn't know where we were going to lead. Now we kind of have some more clear direction based off Wednesday night what's going to happen. But, yeah, not having MJF on the show 2 weeks when a lot of people are at home, too, because it's a holiday week and he's just not there. I mean, go look at the numbers. Like 250,000 people turned off the TV screen after that segment. I lost all interest in Dynamite after that happened 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was a decent show. We're not going to cover every match from the night. Next up, just real quick, I just want to touch on Orange Cassidy versus Jake Hager, simply to further the I like this hat, especially when part of the angle of the match was Cassidy trying to get the hat.
Yeah.
And then 2 is the Orange's new thing of when somebody's backstage and was like starting a rant or like I want a shot at the title. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like this week, QT was like, it's gonna be a lumberjack match. Okay. And then he just kind of walks off.
It's a great little wrinkle to the character. Obviously with Jake Hager's hat thing, you would have to think this is something that Jericho pitched to him, because this is right in the Jericho playbook of how to get people to care about you, how to get heat. Jericho has got a scarf over. He's gotten the list of Jericho over. That you go back through his career, there's always some kind of little item, some kind of little thing.
I've given 2 fucks about Jake Hager.
But now
he's got this purple hat. And I like this hat.
That's what I'm saying. And that's a testament to so many guys not on wrestling on television, wrestling in the indies. You can't just be the dude with the moves and the good body, right? You got to have something. And it can be something as stupid and silly as a dumbass 2000s Limp Bizkit looking purple hat, right? But if you commit to it and you start posting pictures on Twitter of you standing in a Publix with your shirt off and the purple hat on, where it's like a damn accidental Renaissance painting.
Yeah.
It's going to get people intrigued in it.
So I don't want to like linger on it, but do you think he like just said, fuck it, I'm going to take my shirt off and do this real quick?
100%. That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
If you go look at the picture we posted on Twitter, it had to be from a couple of days ago at this point. There's the hat he was clearly wearing to Publix in the shopping cart. And then he's got on the purple hat. And then he's got his shirt that he took off in his hand. And the way he's just like, he's clearly trying to make it look like he's in the moment of grabbing something, but it's so staged. I just love everything about it. And then the newest one he posted where he's like at the airport with no shirt on. And the dude in the background is just clearly looking at him and being like, bro, what the hell is you doing? It's so great. It's great. And now he becomes entertaining, and we want to see more of him.
Oh, yeah.
Because of a hat.
Love it. We can move on from that. I do want to mention at the end of it, House of Black comes out and wipes the damn floor with the best friends at the end. So I guess they're setting up a little rivalry there.
Well, we don't know because they didn't follow up on it.
Yeah, that is true. They didn't follow up on it. So next up from that night was Ethan Page versus Ricky Starks. And we kind of thought initially that they would put Ethan Page over because then you have, if you had a babyface MJF and you've got the heel Ethan Page, right?
Right.
And then, as a member of the firm, that puts him at odds with them, et cetera, et cetera. But they clearly, with the Full Gear, had, full-on MJF heel with the Nux. So that's why you put Ricky Starks over, so Ricky can be the first babyface, I guess, to face MJF.
And this was, it was a good match, good call. Jumping ahead a little bit to what happened Wednesday night. Ricky Starks, obviously, they put him on TV again. I guess somehow they're going to expect fans to care about a Ricky Starks versus MJF match when today is December the 1st, and this match happens in 2 weeks, and neither one of these guys have been in a ring together, even in a promo. So you're telling me just next week these guys are supposed to have one promo and I'm supposed to care about this match? Again, we say it every week. If our folder for why AEW needs writers and needs a creative team, that sumbitch gets a stack of papers heavier each and every single week. This thing, it's overflowing the office. We got this shit in boxes in the corner. It's taking, people are complaining about it. Like, it's mind-blowing. Why have Ricky Starks and MJF not been in a ring together face-to-face with a microphone?
Yeah, there's no reason, no way to explain that away because that's a killer segment waiting to happen with both of those guys.
Yeah, like, it's just, it's like, what is this like? I don't know. It would be like a football coach in the NFL, like, getting all these, like, getting a Jalen Waddle and a Tyreek Hill and DeAndre Hopkins and being like, we're going to run the power eye as an offense. And you go, what the fuck? Do you look at these damn guys? Just let them go. Run a 9 route, baby. That's all you got to do.
Get
what
it
are you
on
doing?
tape.
Like, I get kind of frustrated sometimes, especially when it's so easy. Like, if you're going to do Ricky Starks versus MJF at Winter is Coming, I don't have a problem with it. But can we have a little 3-week build? Can we get them, like, interacting with each other? They've literally not interacted with each other. The match is in 2 weeks. And next week, Ricky Starks, for whatever reason, has been put in this Dynamite Diamond Ring Battle Royal, which the rules don't even make sense because Excalibur and Taz couldn't explain the rules of, like, why, what's happening? If you win, you get a title shot. Like, why? What happened to the rankings? What happened to all this other stuff we had? So
yeah, I don't know what to tell you on that one. Just a big sigh.
It's just, man, we want this program to be so. Clearly, you can tell from the past. Like, we want the program to be so good, right? And it's just, there are flashes of brilliance. And then we just do things where it's just like, man, that's literally the worst thing you could have done. Yeah. Like, you could have done anything else, it would have been better.
Killers.
Yeah, it just kills the buzz.
So next up, which was probably the highlight of the evening, Death Triangle versus the Elite, which ended up putting Death Triangle up 2-0 in the best of 7. Just another banger from those guys.
Yeah.
I've seen complaints about it getting repetitive. Which, after week 3, it was maybe a little. You had some ideas about things that they could do. I think we mentioned on the last show things that you could. So they're not just going out and doing Spot Fest every week for 7 weeks.
And they tried Wednesday night, right? They kicked it off with a brawl. So that was a little different thing we've seen. And there are things that I wish they would experiment more with, maybe some intentional disqualifications to for the Death Triangle to kind of get the upper hand on the Elite. Maybe just give them a win, but, they're so badly hurt. You set you up for next week since we got 7 matches here, presumably. I'm just confused at the nuances of storytelling because if we'll go back to Full Gear, Rey Fenix uses the hammer, gets the win. Both 2 weeks ago and Wednesday night, Rey Fenix now, without explanation,
opposed to it,
has hesitancy about anybody using a hammer. Why? Have we explained that at all? Well, why does he got a guilty conscience now? Okay. Can we hear him say that? Can we see it in a video package? Can he give a promo about it? Like, you can't just expect commentary to put it over and be like, "Oh, now Rey Fenix feels bad about it." Those words have to come from his mouth.
Yeah.
So that's my little, and that's not a. I don't even think that's a nitpicking. I think that's a glaring storytelling logic issue in that rivalry. Outside of that, though, these are 6 of the best professional wrestlers in the world. So
yeah,
every match they have is just incredible.
For sure. And the final match of the evening last week was, I can never pronounce his name correctly, but he squared off against Chris Jericho. And I'm going to be real honest, I don't remember hardly anything about this match.
Oh, they just went hard as shit for like 15 minutes. It's crazy that at 50 years old, Jericho, who doesn't have to do any of this stuff, right? Hall of Fame career, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, still has the passion and the energy to just be like, yeah, fuck it, I'll wrestle a Japanese hardstyle match. Like, doesn't matter. Like, Come on, Ishii, we can chop the shit out of each other. Very rarely have you ever seen anybody bleed from chops, right? And I don't think he gigged his chest either. I think he could have. I don't know. He might maybe turned away from the camera. Looked kind of legit. I mean, his chest looked like hamburger meat when it's over with. And again, I see people complain like, and it is a little bit of complaint like, here we are. We're coming right off the Full Gear pay-per-view, and the Ring of Honor title is back in the main event. Like, I think I would have had Death Triangle as the main event, and moved this maybe to the right after the Regal spot, to where it just starts off with a bang.
Yeah.
So I think maybe a little bit of mismanagement there in terms of the order. But this was just, I mean, this is the AEW match that we all kind of like, where you get a couple guys who have different styles, and we'll see coming up Wednesday night with Harwood and Danielson. These are just matches you don't get anywhere else, right?
Yeah.
Jericho and Ishii. So I loved it. It was great.
I'm just starting to remember that was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And your boy was on one for about 4 days.
Nice.
So
nice.
That probably explains why I don't remember this match. Really
yeah,
well.
and I mean, it was a chop fest through
Yeah.
and through. And it looks like they're going to do Claudio and Jericho at Final Battle. If Claudio loses, he has to join Jericho Appreciation Society. I'm hoping he loses. I would really like to see Claudio and JAS. I've kind of soured on Blackpool Combat Club, particularly now, everything that's happened.
Yeah, and it looks like we'll get there in just a second, but it looks like we're about to lose Mr. Regal.
Yeah, looks like we're about to lose the Blackpool of the Blackpool Combat Club. So Claudio in the JAS, I mean, that's a thing, right? Much like Jake Hager's purple hat. Claudio being a sports entertainer again is a thing that he can kind of run with, hopefully. So we'll see.
We'll see. So, yeah, let's wrap that one up, and we'll get into last night, November 30th. Started out with Moxley promo, and he's standing there and talking about challenging anybody in the back. And I ran across yesterday a headline on Facebook. It was like, injured AEW star spotted backstage. I really wish that shit would stop.
You ain't never gonna they ain't never gonna stop, dog.
I know.
That won't never stop.
God damn. Because I knew instantly before the music hit. I really wanted, I tried to pop for it because I love Hangman, but I was like, yeah, it's Hangman. Duh.
See, I thought, and I didn't read any of that, so I didn't know who it was. I thought MJF was gonna come out because Moxley talking all this shit. There's nobody there. Well, I just beat you, dog, for the title. Like I'm gonna walk out. Like that's my thing. But
Yeah.
it was Hangman and Moxley doing a little heelish stick there, right? Is that a potential? I mean,
maybe
AEW doesn't really care so much about face versus heel dichotomy all that much. But Moxley leaning into a little bit of a heel side, like, and you have to say that, right? You got to be like, hey, man, maybe you don't remember, like, because I knocked your ass out. And then, Hangman doesn't need to say anything, right? He needs to come in and get physical right away. John Moxley just fell off the stage. That was a thing.
Yeah, running after him.
So that was the thing. The brawl, I thought, kind of went on a little too long and kind of got a little silly. They were kind of slipping and falling all over the place. Moxley, I think Hangman slipped over a step, the ring steps. Moxley falls off the damn stage. Like, that's not what you want to see in a pull-apart brawl. I did like that they came back to it backstage, right? Because like we've talked about so many times, historically in wrestling, if you just make it to the back, you just disappear kind of. So the fact that they kept it going as Hangman was trying to walk out, Moxley just comes flying through the frame. That was good. I mean, I'm excited now about this feud. I don't think this is probably naturally what they were going to do, but having Hangman have the concussion the way he did, you kind of have to follow up like this, or else you're really insulting the audience's intelligence if you don't address this at some point. So I thought it was good, and we'll see if Moxley leans more into this heel side, particularly now that Blackpool Combat Club's future looks to be completely up in the air.
Yeah. I mean, reports are coming out there. Looks like Regal's contract is almost up, and it seems
he just got there.
Yeah.
What the hell?
What the hell short kind of contract did he have?
I don't know. Reporting is all over the place. Some people are like, oh, it was 3 years. And then no, it was just a 3-year option. The contract was for 1 year. Some people are like, oh, the contract had a stipulation in it where if Triple H came in power, Regal could go back. Some people are like, oh, maybe Tony's just letting him out because he clearly wants to go back to WWE. Whatever. I'm just going to say this. Why the hell would you sign William Regal in the first place? If this was all, if you had all these stipulations, you could just leave television.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
You didn't need him. You didn't need him at all. Danielson and Moxley could have settled their differences in a more creative way, right? If you weren't going to have Regal.
Yeah. That is odd.
It makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't know. So next up, match-wise, was Dax Harwood versus Bryan Danielson. And they couldn't even fucking get started. And people were yelling, this is awesome.
You could have, like I told you before we started recording, you could have taken this match, dropped it into 1930, 1940, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, wouldn't have mattered. People still would have been on their feet going crazy. This match was fantastic. It was old school. It was filled with psychology. These boys were trading blows. I think there's Dax put a clip on his Twitter, just the European uppercuts in the corner, and you can just hear the thud, like they're laying it in. And it was awesome to see. When Dax was walking down the ramp, though, and I would love to hear what listeners have to say about this, so tweet at us. I got the impression when he was coming out, he didn't come out with any tag team titles. Cash had the titles. Dax is walking to the ring solo. And I'm like, I'm not saying he would be a world champion, but I think there's a scenario where if you had the right story and you built this guy up, a little 2 to 3 month program with Dax Harwood talking about wanting to become a world champion to satisfy all the dreams he's had and to show his little girl that she can achieve whatever she wants to achieve. Yeah. That, you want to talk about over baby faces?
Yeah, like
my God.
I mean, I don't want to wish an injury on anybody, but if Cash got injured, that's a scenario where you could do something like that.
I think you could do it either way, right? But now there's reports their contracts are up in the air, so who knows what the hell that happens.
I think they're on through March or April.
Yeah, me personally, I think they'll go back to WWE.
Goddamn, I hope.
I think that's where they will go now that Triple H is in charge. Dax has talked about how much he admires Triple H. I think that may be where they go back to.
Yeah. I'll cross my fingers that they could stick around, but I could see them, like you said, maybe jumping ship. So next up was AR Fox versus Samoa Joe, and the only reason I want to touch on this one at all is that at the end we see Wardlow on the monitor, and he acknowledges what we all thought all along was that the Wardlow title was completely stupid.
Dumb as hell.
Yeah. That's the only reason we're bringing that up.
Well, I do want to say this, and this is not any kind of flag at this guy personally. Are we sure Wardlow is going to be a main event guy? These promos that he gives just feels like it has nothing behind it whatsoever. And you contrast that with a guy like Samoa Joe, who in every Samoa Joe promo, he has so much. You know, we talk about believability a lot on this podcast.
Yeah.
I don't believe Wardlow. I just don't. I don't believe that he believes the things that are coming out of his mouth. And I don't know. I could be wrong.
I hadn't really put that much thought
It could
into
be
it.
just because his booking has been lackluster as of late. But watching that promo last night he was giving, and I was like, I don't. If you get me right now, there's probably a dozen other guys I would rather see as a world champion than Wardlow.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because I don't know if either one of us probably would have had that thought 6 months ago or 5 months ago, whenever it was.
Yeah, that's true because he was in it at that point.
Yeah, I just don't know. Maybe he'll turn it around for me, and I don't know. It's just my opinion. So, but yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah, so they went to the MJF promo, which is probably where the biggest news of the night came. They unveiled the new belt. He talked about how garbage the other belt was and threw it on the ground, and then unveiled the new one with the Burberry leather, which was, well, I think Shivani called it an atrocity or something like that. And then he pulls the Nux out, and he's walking around talking about how he wanted to thank William Regal and this, that, and the other, and read another email that Regal apparently sent him a few weeks ago, and so on and so forth. And then when he's behind Regal, clocks him in the back of the head.
Presumably, if it's to be believed, riding William Regal off AEW television forever.
Yeah.
What an unsatisfactory way to go about his end.
Yeah.
And to then, okay, well, let me start with a positive first before I get negative Nancy. Love the new belt design. Such a great, especially if you're going to try to keep him heel, which I guess is what you're going to do. Gotta love it. His explanation of being like, everybody that's held this title before me is horse shit. I'm the guy. I get a new championship belt. That being said, that crowd, like we thought was going to happen when we gave our full gear predictions, we're like, I don't think the crowd is going to want to boo MJF.
No.
Guess what? They're in Indianapolis, not even a smarky city, right? Middle America. Those people in Indianapolis wanted to cheer for MJF so badly.
He started eventually getting a couple of little smattering of boos.
Very little.
But it was not
It's
much.
nothing what he was
when
he was full-blown heel.
Yeah.
This we talked about it. This dude is he's a baby face. The crowd wants to cheer for him. I don't understand the hesitation.
You can still be a baby face and say, I'm better than you, and you know it.
Yeah, he can keep all of his stick.
Yeah. You can still have an ego and be...
Well, like you saw him last night, right? He kept going for the cheap little heat pop. Oh, you hicks from India. I have the microphone. Shut up. Guess what? It wasn't working.
Yeah.
Wasn't working. MJF is a guy that they have picked, much like in the way that they picked FTR. Let's do a little experiment here real quick. Do you remember the reason why FTR turned babyface? Was there any narrative reason that was given?
No.
Nope. Just the crowd started cheering for him. Jamie Hayter, was there anything that she did, her character-wise, that turned her from a heel to a babyface? Nope. Crowd just realized how awesome she was and started cheering for her. I'm forgetting. Who else am I forgetting? Ricky Starks.
Yeah.
Was there any reason why Ricky Starks turned babyface? Nope. Crowd just realized how awesome he was, started cheering for him. They're doing the same damn thing with MJF. I don't know why AEW has not got this through their head yet. This is the way their audience operates. When you give them good professional wrestling, they cheer for it. All of your really awesome professional wrestlers, they are going to cheer for. And MJF is at the top of his game, and he, as talented as he is, he will not get these people to boo him. And there's one guy that will, Eddie Kingston. If he goes up against Eddie Kingston, he'll get booed. Other than that, it won't happen. And do you want to do that now?
No.
We got a year of this thing, presumably, with MJF.
He did mention Eddie Kingston last night.
That's another important thing to mention out. The three names he mentioned, Ricky Starks, he's got a match coming up with, which Sounds like probably, I guess probably won't be the end of their
This
rivalry.
could probably
maybe.
be the first of a long feud with them.
Could be, and I'm for it. He mentioned Bryan Danielson. I'm all for that. And he mentioned Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston was the first name he mentioned. People started cheering it. That's the guy where if you want MJF to be a true diabolical heel that is hated once again by the fan base, you have to put him with Eddie Kingston. The problem is we have 12 months of storytelling we have to get through.
Yeah.
Because MJF can't lose the championship until 2024 happens.
And I want to say I'm going to be a little irritated if they do the thing that he kind of teased last night where he said he's only going to wrestle on the pay-per-views. I sure hope they don't do that.
I wouldn't mind if he's only wrestles in the pay-per-views. What he can't have happen is be off television for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
Because AEW is not in the position that WWE is in, where Roman Reigns, as WWE's champion, has the luxury of not being on television every week because that fan base, WWE has a 50-year head start on AEW, true. Right? AEW is in the acquisitions phase of their fandom. They need to pull as many people into this tent as possible, and that means all hands on deck at all times. The biggest stars should be on television every week. Your Moxleys, your Kingstons, your Danielsons, your MJF, your Young Bucks, Kenny, all the names, Hangman, they all got to be there every week. They should be featured on television. Now they're not, which is part of the problem, I think, which is why AEW's growth, at least in terms of television ratings wise, has stagnated and some places has gone down, right? It's because these guys are not, I don't feel like they're putting their best foot forward.
Yeah.
And having MJF as a heel champion when the crowd clearly wants to cheer for him, I also think is not putting your best foot forward.
Yeah, it seems they're not reading the room on that one.
And I would love to be in those rooms to just hear what the hesitation is. Like why? Like, oh, well, MJF doesn't want to be a heel. Okay. Sorry, I guess. Like, you got to, man. You're not listening to these people.
Doesn't want to be a face, yeah.
Or doesn't want to be a baby face. Yeah, like, okay, sorry, guy. Like, the crowd has picked you.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna do with it?
Well, I don't want to super rush this, but we've had some battery issues. We've already cut off twice and had to restart. And, there's not much to say about the Ricky Starks versus Ari Daivari match from last night other than, Ricky gets a nice squash win. We get a quick little promo out of him.
Yeah.
And then Anna Jay versus Willow Nightingale. This was cool because we saw Willow the week before. We didn't talk about it. We just skipped over that one. But she's getting some applause.
The groundswell's happening.
Yeah, you might get a little push.
I mean, listen, the beauty of pro wrestling and why I think it's such an interesting art form is that you get week by week reaction to the types of stories you're putting out there. And you 1 week the Willow buzz is gets a smattering of applause. The next week it grew bigger. The next week it grew bigger. Wednesday night her music hits. There's folks dancing in the aisles. Yeah. Like, hey, okay, let's see what this girl has. Let's put her in a position. I don't know who she goes up against. I don't know if it's a Jade Cargill. I don't know if it's a Jamie Hayter, whoever.
I don't know that she put her, but she might be the one that could take the belt off Jade eventually.
It could be because you have to think the Jamie story is probably going to have something to do with Britt Baker. She should play a part in that. So, yeah, maybe Willow as the pesky little underdog, that has the disco music. Maybe she does, she showed a little fire last night. Yeah. Maybe she's the one to take down Jade Cargill.
You've had, Jade and her badassness or whatever, and she actually did a good job with her promo last night, I thought.
Jade Wednesday night just looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, you want to talk about star power just in the image of it?
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. Now, don't nobody give a shit about Bow Wow.
Right.
Clearly, because Indianapolis was just on their hand. When Bow Wow came on screen, nobody said anything.
Whatever.
Yeah, nobody cares.
But, yeah, she looked good. She did a good job in the promo leading up to that, and then it just kind of fell off. But maybe they changed that up because she's been running it, and then you can have some different energy with the TBS title for a little while with Willow.
It could be. I'm just saying, like, again, the crowd will tell you what they want to see.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that in every single instance you should just give the crowd immediately what they want, because there is something to be said for slow playing something.
Yeah.
But, Willow, there's not many people, especially in that women's division, getting that pop, right?
True.
So, I don't know. Something there.
So next up, real quick, the third of the Death Triangle versus the Elite. Another good match last night. A little different outcome.
Yeah.
I kind of thought they'd put Death Triangle up 3-0.
I could see Death Triangle going up 3-1 because, there have been so many sports comebacks now, baseball, basketball, that have come back from 3-1 deficits. I just didn't think that you would want to do it having the Elite go over so cleanly.
Yeah.
I thought they would either, squeak out a victory or, if you were asking me if I had the pencil, I would have Death Triangle get caught with the hammer, right, and get disqualified, but then just say, fuck it, we've already been disqualified, beat down the Elite afterwards. And now the Elite has gone up a match, but it was kind of a give-you match that Death Triangle just gave them.
Yeah.
And then you can build in where one of these matches has to end in 4 minutes, though. You really need to do something completely different. They all can't be 20 minutes this.
Yeah, we maybe don't need to see 20 minutes of this at Winter is Coming.
Yeah, and the Winter's Coming stacked in another way. I would be pleasantly pleased if the fucking next one ends in 3.5 minutes. And it's just a boom, it's a squash. Then you can play up holy shit. Does Death Triangle have the Elite's number now? We've never seen the Elite in any kind of capacity. We've never seen Omega get dominated like that. We've never seen the Young Bucks get dominated like that. The Elite are down 3-1. Can they come back? Yeah, and that's the way you go about storytelling.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pretty good couple weeks for wrestling. We've got some minor complaints on some things that could be fixed, but
some of my complaints are pretty damn major.
But the wrestling's still good, at least with AEW.
I mean, look, for as much qualms and as much shit as we give AEW, AEW is the only wrestling product in America right now where you can get a Jericho versus Ishii type match, and where you can get Dax Harwood and Bryan Danielson going out there for 20 minutes beating the shit out of each other. Again, we say it all the time when we bring up the biggest difference. WWE just can't do that, right? Because they just had a War Games match Saturday night. Guess what? Sunday, they had a house show they had to do. Them's just the breaks in WWE. Now, what WWE does really well, those moments, right, storytelling, they built a whole War Games match. The history of War Games built off physicality, guys' bloody faces being pushed into the cage. How did they end that match? They ended it with a hug. That's a beautiful thing. And if AEW could somehow find a way to combine that level of storytelling with the crazy athleticism, in-ring action they have week to week, I swear to God, it will be the best wrestling product that has ever been on television. My theory is that they're creatively, they're not capable of doing that. Yeah. Or at least they have not done it yet. Maybe it'll change. But, yeah, so for now we're going to have to go to WWE to get our storylines, and we're going to have to go to AEW to get our wrestling.
Yeah.
Hope something changes in either company.
True. Well, we appreciate y'all. Give us a follow or a like, whatever the fuck you want to call it, on Instagram and Twitter. We're at Alabama Slam Pod. We do have a Facebook account now. You can just search the Alabama Slam Podcast. Find us there. Our podcast logo is their profile picture. We're not hard to find there. And then be sure to follow the Alabama Take on Facebook. That's our network of other podcasts and friends and writers, essayists, and people that write about music and TV. And we got other podcasts. We've got the Taking It Down podcast with some friends. They talk about pop culture stuff, so whether it be TV or movies every week. My lovely wife, Jamie, has a podcast called Check Your Shelf, a book podcast that's once a month. Me and some of my best friends have a podcast called We Are a Star War, where we very obviously just talk about Star Wars. That comes out every week or two, just kind of whenever we can get together. And then Taking on Sports, almost forgot, weekly sports podcast, mostly football-centric right now because it is the season. But yeah, give all those a follow in your podcast apps. Be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. That helps us out. And you can look for, if you need a t-shirt, you can get t-shirts on tpublic.com. Just search for Alabama Slam or the Alabama Take. And that's all I got for this week, man. You got any last words?
Just real quick, we tweeted about this Game Changer Wrestling, GCW, coming to Huntsville, our neck of the woods, in January. Maybe we do a little something, maybe get some listeners out there if you're around the Huntsville area. Maybe we all meet up and try to go to the show or something. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, more, I don't even know if they have a venue announced or times, but I think it was January 21st, 22nd. So
go see Old Manser.
Old Manser will be there.
Lariats and light beers.
Hey, the AEW, I guess, one-time legend. He is he the only dude that's ever come in once and got a video package? Knocked it out of the park. We talked about it. Killed it. Got nowhere else. But yeah, he should be there. Nick Gage, Effie, Alley Catch, all the GCW crew. If you're not familiarized with Game Changer Wrestling, look them up on YouTube. They do some wild shit. So obviously, I guess Conrad Thompson's going to be involved in it somehow. He was involved in one of their latest pay-per-views. So yeah, Game Changer Wrestling. More details to come, but we might try to do something. Who knows?
Hell yeah! All right, man. We'll see y'all next week, and be sure to follow us Twitter at Alabama Slam Pod for our weekly Twitter prompt. We did fall off for a week or two. We're trying to get back in the swing of that. We appreciate y'all replying and hollering at us.
Later, guys.